Mr. DeFazio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish I'd had the benefit of the testimony because this is, I think, a very important issue. It's particularly important to lumber and wood products industry. A number of these issues before us. I have a question for Mr. Woody. 3324 would eliminate the declaration filing requirements that require people to keep records in a file drawer somewhere. How would you know what or when or where they were importing things?
We wouldn't.
Okay, so you'd have to basically maybe use drones and spy on them or something if you're going to know whether or not you might want to have to go in and look at their declarations, or you just have to randomly keep showing up and looking at their declarations to figure out whether or not they had imported stuff they shouldn't import.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure. What is the phenomenal, can people file their declarations online? I mean, is this some incredibly burdensome, time-consuming process?
Actually, sir, what we've heard from our stakeholders is that the time that's mostly spent is collecting the information from their supply chain. So,
right, but that's where the problem potentially occurs.
Yeah. So the declaration process at this point, 85% of declarations are done electronically through customs brokers and 15% on paper. With our new system, our new electronic system, we're hoping to roll out very soon. We're hoping that makes the process even easier and less costly for our importers.
Right, but the problem lies with people who are dealing with people overseas or with brokers who say, well, gee, we can't certify that this was legally harvested. Or I mean, isn't that kind of the whole issue here? I mean, we have our own national system, as do some other countries, for certification of sustainable products, et cetera, that, is approved by forest products industry. So, I mean, what's the deal here? Why do we think this is such a, I don't understand. I mean, how are we going to possibly enforce the law if we don't require declarations? Anybody got a good idea?
We're not, sir.
Okay, so why don't we then maybe they ought to be more honest and repeal the law, and then you wouldn't have to worry about enforcing a law that you can't enforce.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, well, that's interesting. Now, what does accidentally included specimens mean with this under 3105? What would that require you to prove? Would it require you to prove intent? Like someone has a mixed batch, they're bringing in some kind of tropical fish and they get some in there that are prohibited, and you would have to prove that they knowingly included those fish, I guess, wouldn't you? Because if we have this accidentally included exclusion?
We'll go to the knowingly and intent. If somebody was, say, shipping in corals, and they wanted to hide corals in the box or whatever, and we went through it and we found it, and we asked the person, we started looking at it, and the person would say, we accidentally put those in the shipment, or we accidentally marked the shipment wrong, it would be a defense and we could not go after that person. Okay,
so I suppose you could, but then it becomes a much more burdensome, litigious law enforcement process, right?
Yeah, but if it's accidentally, though, under this,
but
we could not prosecute.
Well, what you would have to do is then take them to court and try and prove that they didn't accidentally do it, right? That they intentionally did it.
That is correct.
Okay. That seems a bit problematic. It seems like kind of a loophole you could bring a lot of endangered species through. What problem do you think we're trying to deal with here? I mean, is this something that really honest people are worried about? And if someone really did under current law, if someone said, we had absolutely no idea, that was totally, what would you do? You prosecuted someone for that?
I can't think, we don't prosecute for accidentally. People aren't prosecuted. We focus on major cases where you show the intent, knowingly, willfully, intentionally. Accidentally, we don't do that.
Okay, but by doing this, the people who are knowingly doing it would now have a new way to get around the law. They could say,
accidentally would be a loophole.
Right.
A large loophole.
And no matter how big the pattern or how often or whatever, they could just say, oh, it's an accident. Gee, we're sorry. It's been going on for quite a while. We didn't know about it.
That is correct.
Okay, well then, I guess we might as well just repeal that law too, or that part of the law. So, Okay, that's my questions for the moment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.